Hey, it's Dorleen. Welcome to my channel and also to my creative life. Hey, I'm using a stamp set today from Seguras Crafts called Emotions and Opposites. And you can see right here that the images are a little small. They're not tiny, but they're a little small, in my opinion, to put a main focal image on a card front. So what do you do when that happens, when you know you want to use a certain stamp set? What I did is I stamped multiple copies of it. Now, I stamped these in a black permanent ink the night before, so that way it would be plenty dry by the time I got to coloring it in. I'm using watercolor pencils, and then I'll be using a water brush to kind of smear the ink or the pencil shaving, I don't know what you call it, the color around to give it like a watercolored look. So what I was talking about, making them into a focal image, because in my opinion they're kind of small, I thought I'm going to make duplicate on the little girl. I only did one of the sunflower because I'm going to do 4 altogether, but I'm going to be putting them into frames. And when I say frames, I mean Polaroid frames. Now, how cute is that going to be? I know you're going to love it. I went to my Cricut after coloring these all in, and I measured the width of each of these stamps. Now, folks, if I would have realized this before I started stamping, I would have given myself a little bit more room on the paper, but of course I didn't. I always do this, I think, as I'm going along. I knew I wanted to use this little girl and the sentiment that I'll show you later, and then I added the flower because I thought that would work well with the happiness of the emotions of the little girls. And so, like I said, if I would have planned this beforehand, I would have had a bigger paper that I was stamped it on, but it ended up working out fine. So I measured the width, which was about 1.5 inches. So I went to my Cricut and I just did a search in there, and there were Polaroid frames. And so I cut 4 of them out, and they are 1.5 inch width with that middle square, I don't know, maybe 1/4 inch smaller. And they worked out perfectly. So I just used some liquid adhesive, and I'm going to adhere those on. But before I do that, I'm just doing a very light drawing of a light blue around each of them because I didn't want that stark white background. I am going to use a water brush to kind of smear that around a little bit because it just adds a little bit more watercolor look, which is basically what they're meant to be since they're watercolor pencils. So once I did that, and I let them dry for just like a little bit, and I mean they weren't really super wet, but I just used some liquid adhesive and I glued those frames right on top of them. I love the way these look. Now you're going to notice when I'm putting them on, there's a lot of extra space around. Don't worry, folks, we're going to trim those down. But I did, as I was adhering them, I did put them underneath an acrylic block. And I did this because even though this glue is made for paper, it still is a wet medium. So adding glue to the paper, I just wanted to make sure that, first of all, that they adhered very well. And also I wanted them to be straight. So I didn't want them to warp. God, I couldn't think of that word, be warped at all. So I'm going to sit there for a little bit. And I'm talking, when I say a minute, I mean a minute. And then I'm just going to use some scissors and trim them down. Exactly how they look right now. Perfectly perfect. So I do that with all of them. It's no problem. And then while that's just resting for a little bit longer, I'm going to grab some scrap paper from my scrap pile. I really like that piece, but then I also kind of thought, ooh, I really like the back. So because I like this one just as well, I went ahead and trimmed this one down to 4 by 5.25 inches. And that means it's going to fit on your standard A2 card with just a little bit of white of the card base edging showing, which is exactly how I like it. I don't like to cover the entire card front. So there you go. Once I center it, it's going to look perfect. And then I just need to decide what am I going to do, or where am I going to put these cute frames. Again, the 4 frames together is what my focal image is on this card. So, like I mentioned before, not sure what to do? There you go. Look at that. Isn't that so cute? And it just looks so cute on this card because it gives your eyes like a way to move around the card, because there's these colorful images and there's this contrast of that black Polaroid in the middle of all that, and that's what's going to hold the sentiment. Now, I've used these stamps, a couple of them before, but that one I hadn't, so that's why you saw me use my thumb and just kind of like rub over the top of the stamp just to kind of get any whatever residue or anything that's left over on top of stamps before they're actually used, because I wanted a really crisp image. And I'm just going to use my scissors to trim these down. Now, folks, I don't normally use my scissors to cut because I will not cut straight. But because this was such a small piece, I figured it would be easier than putting it into my cutter. And I wasn't too worried about being exactly straight because if that was the deal, I would never get anything done. And I just used my larger or the scissors with the longest blade to cut the longer edge. And then I just used my smaller one for all the other options. So I cut this into 3 pieces because you probably noticed that sentiment was a little bit longer than my Polaroid, and I did want it to be in the inside. And I've seen people cut up stamps to do that, but I felt like that was just a little too permanent, and I was fine with just cutting it up like that. I think it worked really well having the sentiment in strips. Look at how cute that is with that white contrasting against the black with the black ink. I don't know, I just love it. And I think it looks perfect with all those colorful, cute little framed pictures. I hope you agree. And if you do, give me a thumbs up because why not? And also don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I do post 2 videos a week. One is always scrapbooking and the other is whatever it is I'm creating in the command center, which happens to be the name of my craft room and also my blog. I'll have a link in the information box with my blog address and also the website address for Seguras Crafts. Now, Seguras Craft is a website that sells crafty items, but the big focus is on mental health and kind of using art as a therapy. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I love being in my craft room, especially if I'm not feeling it elsewhere. I just like to be in there. Hey, sometimes I'm just sitting there looking at my supplies, but other times you kind of get out of your head and you get to create, and that's always fun. So please check out her website, and there is some information on there that talks a little bit more about her focus and her goal of the website, and I think you would enjoy that. Again, that link will be in the information box. So before I'm finished with this card, I'm going to grab some enamel dots. If you notice, I really did color the girls in like a soft blue and a soft red, and then that yellow of the sunflower. I think this looks really pretty with these 3 different color that I'm kind of focusing on with the enamel dots. And these were just some Echo Park ones that I had bought on sale. I have them in my stash. I did want to add a little bit of bling because why not? I put 3 of them, or 3 dots, if you want to call it that, on one of them, and then just 1 on the other, and then 2 on the other 2. I think that kind of gives it a balance, and I hope you agree as well. I didn't want to overload it with enamel dots, but I also didn't want to underload it with enamel dots. I used my white pen to add some dots here and there, just some little fun little features onto their clothes and their little highlights here and there. I also used my black marker to put draw a little edge around the inside of the Polaroid cards because I kind of felt like that, even though I did that light blue background, it still kind of got lost between the white paper and the white frames, but I think that helps pop them out. I hope you agree. But again, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. Bye.